Today we have Cheney who's going to be presenting for us, who's been to Ukraine. And with that, it's all yours, Cheney.
Cool. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, so I got out to Ukraine just a few weeks following the full-scale invasion in 2022. And I went out there for a number of reasons. It wasn't my first time in Ukraine. I had been out there in 2014, slightly after, a little bit after on protests. Um, and I worked on a portrait series and interview series at that time also, kind of when I was just getting my footing and getting started in photojournalism. A couple of my best friends growing up in New York City are Ukrainian American, and I was just happened to be in 2014, I happened to be traveling and just kind of bumping around the world a little bit, and I just ended up there and had places to stay through those kind of childhood friends from New York. Um, and so when the full scale invasion kicked off, I was talking. I had made new friends in 2014, and I just was talking a lot to them and checking in on them, and worried, and blown away by what was happening, and kind of I felt like I needed to do something and wanted to do something, but didn't know how or what. Um, and wanted to go to Ukraine, but didn't want to just to because photography is my way of taking action, I guess. And but I also didn't want to just go there and do contribute the same imagery. There's already so many fantastic photojournalists on the ground doing the work, Ukrainians, international journalists, and I wanted to try to push and do something different that added a new layer to talk about this invasion. Um, and the clinching point for me that I just said, fuck it, I'm going. I remember I was covering this trucker rally. It was like the, truckers for Trump, anti-vaxxers driving from California to Washington, D.C. And I was living in Indiana at the time. And and it was like maybe like a week after the full-scale invasion started. And I remember it being at this rally and someone coming on stage and saying that um that the invasion of Ukraine, or the war in Ukraine, wasn't real, and that it was like manufactured to distract from their movement of truckers going across the country or something. And like I was like, what the fuck? And like the level of like disinformation and distrust. um I knew it existed in this country, but I just that moment like really solidified the fact that I just like needed to go do something to give some try to give some tangibility to what was happening. And it was like at a moment I just wanted to, I could, I was, I mean, I'm there as a journalist, right, doing my job. Um, so I can't, obviously I can't say anything, but I just wanted, like, I literally, earlier that morning, I was texting friends in Ukraine who are like running for their lives, and like someone's just telling me it's not real. And
Mm.
it was, that was kind of the moment for me. And I think about a week or 10 days later, I was on a plane, yeah. And so yeah, I trying to think where I to go from here.
So you started a portrait series?
Yeah, I started a portrait series, and I like it's kind of it was like it was planned, but it also kind of happened organically, in a way. Like um I had been given some FP 100C film, which is this old film that is no longer produced, made for Polaroid land cameras. I think the last times it was made, last years it was made was like 2018. So it's expired. And they don't make it at all anymore. And I've been given some of it and I've been wanting to use it and I kind of just I and I've been thinking a lot about already about Polaroids and about like and about trust and imagery and about tangibility and I decided to kind of run with that because I was in terms of Ukraine, I was thinking about how people are not trusting the images they're seeing, and what can we do to trust the images? Well, like a Polaroid is, I mean, although yes, we are looking at it on a digital screen right now, it is an artifact, it is a physical object. It's very hard, you know, when you're actually seeing that physical object, you can't really be arguing with the reality of it, you know? It's not a collection of pixels that can be altered. Um, and so I kind of went with that concept and I started making portraits. And doing extensive interviews. I also had like I've been given some film that was still good, but some was completely expired and the chemistry was all dried out. And so I just had I ended up opening up the packets and just had the blank Polaroid, like the paper where an image could have been, but because the chemistry was so dried out and it was so expired, it couldn't be used. Um,
So, what city did you land in?
so I came in through Poland and walked across in to I mean near Lviv. I guess that's not Lviv right across there the border there, but yeah, I first came into Lviv and spent some time out there working and collecting stories a lot, you know, a lot of time in the train stations and at well at the train station and at shelters where people are coming from Kiev and the east, trying to, you know, to the safer area in the west. And yeah, I worked with translators and fixers throughout, and I just started going around and talking to people and really getting to know people and hearing their stories. I recorded audio from their interviews and audio from the just ambient sounds that as I was going and moving through these spaces and places, which I ended up incorporating later on. But I was at the stage where I didn't know entirely what I was doing, but I did just know that I was just collecting. Um, and I asked people to on those blank Polaroids that couldn't be used for pictures because the chemistry was dried. I asked people to write something. I'd give them prompts. I often ask them to write just about a memory since the war began. Well, since the full scale invasion began. And sometimes people would follow that prompt. A lot of times people just would write whatever they felt in their heart in that moment. Um, and it
So
was
show us. So, Cheney, show us some more images as you speak.
sure. Um, Here we are looking at a woman. I met her in Zaporizhia, um, at a shelter, and she was from Mariupol, and she had just arrived in Zaporizhia the day before, and she had been in Mariupol with her daughter and her daughter's two children and their husband and her daughter's husband. And bombs had rocked their house, and the daughter and the two kids and the husband fled, but she could not keep up at that moment. So she was able to escape a few days later. Um, and she finally got to into Ukrainian territory and is unable to reach her daughter. Her daughter's partner has no idea. The phones are off, doesn't know if they're dead or alive. Um, and you know, she told me this and she wept and she wrote, I mean, it'd be good to just it'd be good to just hear the full story. So I'm gonna to the translation. Oh, come on. Um, yeah, I'd like to read the translation to some of these images. Unfortunately, my internet is not cooperating. Um, but yeah, and so I mean, in lieu of reading the direct translation, what she wrote was basically a note to her daughter, and saying, "Please call me if you see this," which was incredibly heartbreaking. Um, let's see. Second, disregard my massive amount of tabs open on my computer. Um, but yeah, I mean, oh, this is the video. So many stories. I ended up photographing, interviewing, and speaking to um 53, 52 different people, all in different parts of Ukraine. I was in Kyiv and Lviv and Dnipro and Kharkiv and Zaporizhia. Um,
And
and
Cheney,
yeah,
you're with a fixer at this time, who's sort of
yeah, yeah.
shepherding you around.
I worked with a variety of fixers throughout my time there, and sometimes also just my Ukrainian friends acted as fixers for me at times as well, like here in Bucha. Um, yeah, either working with professional fixers or friends to help me with whatever.
And the folks that you're with, that you're shooting were very accommodating. They were, sure, take my portrait. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, overwhelmingly, um, that people wanted to speak and to be heard and to be seen. And I find that, of course, there were people who didn't want that, and express that, but that was a rare experience for me. For overwhelmingly, people wanted to be photographed and wanted to be heard. I'm also like, I spent this like I did none of this quickly. I more often than not for all these portraits spent a lot of time with people, and I mean oftentimes at least an hour just talking to them and hearing their stories, um and I would take one picture, um because this film is so rare. So the majority of the work that I was doing, it wasn't actually photographic. It was um the kind of the collecting of stories. And as I went along, I had a little photo album that I was loading these pictures, and the corresponding handwritten text in. And I just had it for storage. But uh very quickly I realized, first of all, it was a great tool because to explain what I'm doing and for someone to actually see it is a completely different thing. So once I had it, once I had taken 3, 4 portraits, I would just hand over, um, like once but the first 3 or 4 portraits I had taken. At that point, I was just would show people this photo album, and um, that was also a really useful tool to help people understand what I was trying to do. And um uh like other people who would be
Yeah.
potential participants.
Okay.
Um yeah, so and as I went along, I started to realize that what I was making was that album got filled up, and I started layering because I didn't have any more space, and pictures were going behind other pictures and text was going behind other text, and I realized that I had made a physical book, um somewhat, accidentally. And watching Ukrainians react to seeing other Ukrainians and seeing their handwriting and reading their stories. Um, and it was really something to witness. And just as I was traveling and showing people this. And I
So
really wanted
what
to.
year is this, and for how long did you do this project?
This is 2022, and I was just out there for 6 weeks, the first in the beginning of the full scale invasion. So, um, it wasn't an incredible amount of time, but it was just a incredibly uh tumultuous and uncertain and fraught and scary um time in that country. Not that all those things have gone away, but it was the beginning of all that. And so there.
So now you're in Ukraine, and are you thinking about that dumbass truck driver?
No, I wasn't thinking about him anymore. No, I was just kind of fully involved in the place and the people and the space and the work that I was doing. I also I'm a photojournalist by that's my primary source of income. That's what I do for a living. Um, and I didn't tell any editors that I was coming out here. I just wanted to do the work and not,
Mm.
I just I had an idea of what I want to do, and I didn't want any distractions and considerations of making money, and like I just wanted to do this and do something that was meaningful to myself and to other people, hopefully. Um, and yeah, so no, I was fully focused on this work. Um, but yeah. Yeah, and then so I ended up coming back to the United States after that. And I ended up partnering with a gallery and and CNN as well. And well, CNN was doing a platform selling NFTs. And so with this gallery and their CNN NFT platform, we ended up making a series of NFTs with these portraits and the audio from people's voices. And there was at the end of that summer, there was a exhibition in New York, and we were able to raise a couple $1,000 that went some to the 2402 fund, and which I don't know if you are you familiar with this fund?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I mean, it wasn't all that I wanted to be. There was this moment where like NFTs were like this, like really making money, and but I think like I came right at the end of it where it wasn't as making as much as I wanted, but it did something, and I know it went somewhere good, and these stories were shared and heard, and I also took that album that I had created, uh, kind of the book that I had almost accidentally created, and I recreated it. I scanned these images. Well, actually, I photographed every single Polaroid and handwritten note, and I reprinted them um, to the exact same size, and I bought 24 um, of those that same exact album, and I loaded all the images in there, and added some additional little notes explaining, and I created a separate zine that had all the translations and all the information I gathered from interviews from every single person. And so this book and this zine paired together, 24 of them. Um, I I partnered with my brother, who's a book publisher and archivist, and he was
Great.
able to place them in a lot of institutions that are going to archive and preserve them for a long time for people to be able to see and appreciate and understand these stories for an incredibly long time. And it's in the MoMA, it's in the Met, it's in Harvard, Yale, Brown, Monash, Stanford, so yeah, it's kind of I'm feeling really good about that and the fact that these are going to be valued and preserved through history in that way.
Yeah,
And
that is great. That is great. It becomes evidence, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's photo that's the one that's that's exactly right. It's evidence, and that's kind of that's a big part of what I was thinking about in approaching this is like it's that physical tangible object is really evidentiary, and really kind of important and a different way of creating something that is like undeniably true and like seeing someone's handwriting like like I like it's just so real and like I mean I'm sure people can deny anything they want but it's just another I really just wanted to give another layer of something that's just you know uh, makes it more difficult for people to not to deny and to disbelieve and to not care. So I'm trying to, you know, trying to contribute
Well, I
and
mean,
and there's
you actually did it, right? I mean, you actually did garnish evidence that is, undisputable, right? From this moment, somewhere, was it in Texas where that Trump knucklehead was?
Indiana, it was in Indiana.
Indiana. No, but like from that moment to here, to handing off to your brother and your brother facilitating whatever he was able to do is really a full and complete circle.
Mhm.
Right. I mean, and that's, a lot of, it's great. The execution is great in its, simplicity, tremendous amount of work involved, but it's clean, it's clear, it's evidence.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I agree. And I are you familiar? I imagine you are, but with the photo evidence, the
The
public,
book.
yeah, the
Yeah.
book. Now they've
Svet. Yeah, we
published.
had Svet and Sarah on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's important to make and it's important to make a record of these things, and it's important to make physical objects. I mean, that record these things too, because you know, it, yeah, I think physical objects are really important in terms of historical record because so much of what we make and how we exist is on these screens, and there's this
Oh,
dissidence from that now, and it's like and yeah, so yeah, it's super important. That
it sounds so horribly old-fashioned, but so, like the foundational parts of democracy and honesty is having something you could hold.
yep,
Right?
yep.
So you do that trip. Do you go back? I mean, when's the last time you've been there? So it was that one time, and this was right.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about it and wanted to go back. Basically, I had earned some money working my ass off at the end of 2021 and then I spent it like I had for the first time in years I had like $10,000 saved up. Being a photojournalist is not a lucrative profession. Um and then I spent it all going to Ukraine and I came back broke. And I mean, between going to Ukraine and then coming back, and like it took a lot of work to put this whole project together when I got back. Um, so it became very difficult for me to financially justify returning, and I
Yeah,
honestly wasn't sure what else and more I could do. I did think a lot about it. But uh at this moment, I mean, and I just it didn't make sense for a lot of
right,
reasons. And I didn't know what else. Like I felt like I had done something different and important, and I'm just like, what else could I do to contribute? And I really wasn't sure about that.
right,
Without
right.
that certainty, it was hard for me to justify.
And your friends are back in Ukraine, or are they here?
Yep, no, they're in Kiev.
They are. Oh,
I have two good friends there that I stay in touch with. They're both still in Kiev. One of them, their family had gone to Italy for a bit, but now they're back. So yep, they're hanging out and hanging in. But
and any of these folks, as you go through the images, stand out to you as more or less, that was an interesting day, or this was, one or two stories you
There's
could share with us.
incredible. There's so many stories. I'd love to just let me just revisit this. Let me see if I can. Not sure why it's not going to my website. Come on. So strange because I'm on internet memes. Uh, here we go. All right. Um, yeah, this is going to be easier for me and I can be more accurate. So we talked about this one. Yeah, and I'll just read you this text since I wasn't able to earlier. On the 24th of February at 5 a.m., the war started. On the 15th of March, my house was destroyed. On the 23rd of March was the last time that I saw my daughter and grandchildren. Chulnika, Elena, Yaroslav, and Nikita. Dear Elena, I have tried to call you, but you are out of range. I will make my way to Western Ukraine. Nadezhda, 63. And yeah, she was cooking dinner for her grandsons, ages 6 and 10, who were sheltered in the basement when projectiles struck her Mariupol home. The blast blew off her door and collapsed part of the roof. Stunned by fire and smoke, she immediately sank to the kitchen floor. Once she gathered herself and checked on the boys, she returned to the task at hand and prepared the meal amidst the rubble. On March 23rd, her daughter, who had been out of the city when the war began, returned to Mariupol to evacuate her family, but because of ill health, Nadezhda couldn't run to catch the bus, so she stayed behind. Only her daughter and two grandsons escaped. However, she managed to evacuate 6 days later with a neighbor. She traveled for 2 days through multiple checkpoints before reaching Zaporizhia. And since then, she has tried repeatedly to contact her daughter, son-in-law, and grandsons by phone, but no one answers, and she's fearful of their fate. Um,
That's so intense,
yeah,
right? I mean, like, but what a great I don't know what the right word is, but you facilitating her being able to share that,
mhm.
right? That is really I on some level it has to be therapeutic that my message is getting out in another way through
Yeah,
you, right? I mean, she's looking for a kid, my God, and a
yeah,
grandchild.
and I mean, and yeah, maybe therapeutic. I also, there's a lot of moral qualms. Like, I took this picture, I collected this story, but I wasn't there working for a news agency. I was there trying to create something else, and I was just I felt hopeless. Like what
Yeah,
can I, like she's weeping and in horrible pain and doesn't know if her family is fucking alive.
right.
And I was hoping that I can do something to help it, and I really can't. And so that was like, I mean, I there's a lot of situations in this work, but in all of the work that I do where I'm just I'm there and I do my best, but I wonder if it's good enough a lot of the time. But
Well,
and it's
I mean, it is because again, it's something you could hold on to and something that people get to see. But it comes with a price, right? I mean, you're obviously stressed about what you do and the value that you do, but no, I mean, you have to know that there's a incredible value to what you do and getting it into these different places that will be there forever,
I
right?
have to I have to remind myself that it's and I often and I do, but it's also like when you're in the moment in the place,
Mm,
it's hard when you're dealing with trauma and pain directly in front of you and you're feeling it too, but of course not at the same degree, but it's yeah, it's difficult, but
So, Cheney, what do you do for yourself?
I'm working on that. This year has been a big year of me trying to
I
take care of
mean,
myself.
no, I
But
mean, because that's a real, I mean, that issue can't be diminished in any way,
yeah,
because it's real serious. I mean, a lot of people, in your spot have to deal with that.
yeah. I yeah, oh, for a long time, nothing.
Right.
For a long I just and then this year I kind of felt it all, everything just pile up and some things happen in my personal life, and
Mm.
it just all collapsed, and I felt everything at once. So now this has been like a year where I've been really working on doing stuff for myself. And that just means like giving myself grace and taking time to be outside and be with loved ones and and you know taking a step back from work a lot actually.
Good.
Yeah, so it's been good, but it's you don't know until you don't you think you're fine and you don't you feel it, but you don't yeah, there's different levels, right? So
Yeah.
uh yeah, but it's important. I mean, and it's like there's a lot of uh other photographers and photojournalists in this industry that it catches up to you. It does. You don't, and it can be sneaky too. So um
No, that's 100% right. But I guess recognizing it is a great thing for you, so
yeah,
that you do take those long walks and you do chill. I mean, 'cause no one's going to help you but yourself and your family, right? I mean, thank God for family,
yeah,
you know,
100%.
to give you perspective.
100%. Yeah, you want to hear a couple more
Yeah, yeah,
stories?
yeah. Please, please.
This is Olia and Lib in Kharkiv, and I stayed with them for a few days. They were a lovely couple. They're both artists, and Lib uh, joined the territorial defense and worked as a um, with a javelin RPG. But yeah, they put me up for a number of days in Kharkiv, and they're just lovely human beings, and I ended up including them in this project. And what they wrote here is Ukraine is sure to stand and it will win, and very soon it will resurrect and become even more beautiful. Russian worship, go fuck yourself. And then that's what Olia wrote. And then Lib wrote, um we will kill the Russians and get married. Yeah, on the war's third day, artists and graphic designers Olia and Lib were crowded in a dank basement room making Molotov cocktails when Olia proposed to Lib. He accepted, and they planned to marry once the war is over. For now, Lib is fighting. On March 9th, he joined Kharkiv's territorial defense forces, serving as an RPG operator. He no longer speaks to his pro-Russian family. His father, living in one of the most heavily shelled neighborhoods in northern Kharkiv, believes Ukraine is bombing its own country and is waiting for Russians to free him. Olia and her mother still feel daily fear, but are trying to build a routine in nights spent in the basement shelter where she has hung up her art and prepared with makeshift weapons.
Wow.
Sadly, I should reach out to Olia because I haven't spoken to her in a while. They did break up,
Oh,
but yeah, but who knows? Now it has been a while, so maybe they're back together. You never know. But they're both just beautiful people, and that's kind of special to me in that way. Just because of the relationship. Like I spent several days with them. Um, yeah, here's another one. This was in Kharkiv also. And Fedya. Yeah. So he's sitting here on the couch in his living room, and behind me and we're on God, what floor were we on? Eighth, ninth, I don't know, way up there in this apartment building. And behind me there's just no wall. Um, and he's holding part of this rocket that had crashed through his living room. And I'll read you this. It happened at 10:30 p.m. Thank God that they are still alive. It's a miracle. I believe that we will see victory. Thank you to all the people who are helping our country, Ukraine. As he sits amid debris on the couch on his 11th floor Kharkiv apartment, Fedya, 73, holds a piece of the rocket that crashed through his living room wall. His wife, Tamara, had lain down on that couch and covered herself with a blanket only a moment before the rocket struck. Her sole injury was a hematoma on her leg. Had she been standing, sitting, or uncovered, she believes she would have been seriously wounded. Fedya, asleep in the next room, had gathered his wife from the rubble. They stayed awake for the rest of the night as they waited for daylight. After 42 years of living in the same apartment, they are now staying on a neighbor's flat 3 floors below their own. They have nowhere else to go, Fed just said. So, I mean, you know, heartbreaking, but also incredibly uplifting. I mean, she had been laying on this couch and had just laid down and like, just, something the universe wanted her to live. And I mean, like it's just kind of incredible because there's no fucking wall in this room. And I mean, you see the size of that rocket is just completely destroyed and shrapnel holes in the wall. I mean, it's incredible that she survived and his wife survived that. So um I mean, it's just like it's heartbreaking, fucked up story one after another, man. This is a this is a really fucked up one. That's Stanislav and his two sons, Vladimir and Viktor. And I'll just read it to you. This is what he wrote here. On February 28th, 2022, the war took my wife from our family. Her name is Daria, the mother of our kids, our beloved, our son. She gave us her love, affection, and care. Our closest friend, smart, incredibly beautiful, a little flower, a real woman. She will live in our hearts forever. Stanislav, 34, sits with his sons, Vladimir, 7, and Victor, 3, in a Kharkiv hospital. Stanislav met Daria 15 years ago when they were both university students. When Russia invaded, Stanislav, an engineer, was working in Uzbekistan. They stayed in constant contact. He texted Daria every hour and called every 3 hours. 4 days into the war, Daria told him that she had decided to relocate from their home in I'm going to butcher this, Chuchiv, a small town about 25 miles southeast of Kharkiv, to a safer location. The next time he called her, a stranger answered the phone. He told Stanislav that Daria was dead and his children were in the hospital. Stanislav later came to learn that just 500 yards from their home, their car had come under fire, potentially friendly fire, killing his wife. Their youngest son escaped with only small cuts on his face, but the older son was wounded when a piece of metal from the car lodged in his head. Vladimir is currently in rehab. Vladimir is currently in rehab that's the oldest son, when his health permits. Stanislav plans to take his sons to a safer area in the country. Neither of the sons have memories of the incident, and Stanislav waited 4 weeks to tell him that their mother had died. Vladimir doesn't talk much, but has built a toy gun for items in the hospital. Victor says he knows his mother is in the sky, but repeatedly asks how to get her back down.
Mhm.
The, yeah.
Mhm.
The
Great story. Yeah.
I mean, this was one of this one I I'll never forget sitting in this hospital talking to Stanislav. Just fucking heartbreaking. Just so painful. And yeah, I mean, I mean, when you hear, also I recorded a lot of these people's voices reading these notes that they wrote aloud. Um, and I just encourage people to go take it. Some of those are on my website here, and mixed with ambient audio that I collected from the country also. So yeah, I just hearing these people's voices too is it's just another layer of just like this is fucking real people. Like these are real people. These are real
I
life.
mean, how did you? I mean, it's wonderful how you ingratiated yourself with them for them to share so much with you, because that's not an easy task. For
Yeah.
people to shed their skin to almost a perfect stranger in such a short time. Um, that's really a credit to you, your fixers, everyone that connected with these folks, and
Yeah.
for allowing them to, allowing you to take this imagery is really a testament to, your dedication.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I think yeah, I it's part of my job and to kind of I'm good. I recognize that I've been giving myself more credit, so thank you for saying that because a lot of time I beat myself up over the years, but like I am good at making people feel comfortable and um and open up. I think that's partly just because of my work and the practice, but also just my personality because I really do give a fuck and I really believe in consent and just and collaboration more than anything. Like there's this idea that, that's part of photojournalism that's entrenched in kind of the old photojournalism that it's just like, you got to get the shot no matter what. And I say, fuck that. Like, if someone, I mean, there are certain situations where yes, but like when you're dealing with trauma and you're dealing with pain and you're dealing with deep human emotions, like you, you need to take the time to really make sure that they're okay with sharing and with communicating. So,
I think, yeah, I mean, of course you're right. And I think, all the terrific, all the great photojournalists, um, have that patience, have that sense of where they are and who they are and, what they need to give in order to, become closer to their subjects. But it's an art form. It's not something you can just do, right? You
mhm.
have to, part of it is who you are that you bring to it before we even start with photographs, right? And yeah, and I'm sure your friends were going to do anything for you because here you are, you're coming to document this, you know, they'll do anything for you. So it all gets conveyed in those messages. Do you understand the language at all?
No,
Yeah,
no. I mean,
yeah, but
I
I'm
was picking up things as I went, but no.
yeah,
Uh,
no, but I'm sure your friends conveyed that to these subjects so that you were given that sort of access because this, I mean, this story in itself is where do you go from here? I mean, my God, you
I,
know,
I don't know. I don't know.
yeah,
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 I mean, it's not just me. People, like Stanislav wanted to be Ukrainians themselves, like they, you know, they're willing to put themselves through more pain, recounting
yeah,
trauma because they want shit to change and they don't want they don't want more pain for themselves and for their countrymen and women. And they like, they recognize the power I mean, this is a lot of people everywhere. Like they recognize the power of photography. They recognize the power of storytelling and of journalism. And when and when you want to see change, that also makes people who I'm working with, participants, subjects, whatever you want to call it, they want to participate because they're fucking sad and they're angry and they're fed up and they're desperate. And so it's not just me,
yeah.
it's by any means, it's people seeing the potential and just wanting to try everything they can to make change for
Mhm. Yeah,
themselves.
I mean, they recognize the power of imagery, right? I mean, everyone does these days, right?
Mhm.
We're in this social media world that we're in. So give us one more, Cheney.
Yeah, let's do one more. Let's see. Maybe we'll do Aphonia. Man, I wish no, this is a
And it doesn't have to be one. If there's two that you really love, that's fine too.
I want to read you her poem. This was we don't I don't have to go too deep in this one, but I loved she wrote me a poem, and this was twice I was written a poem on these papers, but I really loved her. One day I want to wake up. This was a woman who I met in Lviv in a school turned shelter, Svetlana. One day I want to wake up and see peace and silence all around, and Putin drowned in the sick pile of his own shit. And that he didn't survive to see a courtroom, and instead he died like Hitler in his bunker. And Ukraine has fought it all, and everything that was before is just a dream now. That's because we are united, because we have one destiny. Ukraine hasn't died yet, neither its glory nor its freedom. I don't know. I just coming from a
Wow,
77-year-old woman and I'm
that's
sitting
great.
on her on an airbed or whatever, on a mat on the floor in a school in Lviv. I was like, damn, you're a fucking G. Like,
Well,
I loved it. And it's beautiful, but it was like hardcore. And I just
totally. I mean, look. I mean, how old? Does it say how old she was?
77.
77. Yeah, there you go. She's a feisty. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I loved it, man. I loved it. Uh, and yeah, maybe we'll end on that one just because
Yeah, I think you should. That's a killer one.
yeah, we don't need more. There's a lot of fucked up and sadness, but that one kind of makes you feel good, and I think we should end
Yeah,
on.
no, that's absolutely great. So what's next for you, Cheney?
Oh man, immediately the 2024 election here in the United
Okay.
States. I'm about to head over to Georgia and be
Oh,
working
is that
there
right?
leading up and after. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep doing what I do and looking just to have more balance in it now. So yeah, I just actually today I just had a big story that I've been working on pretty much this entire year published with Reuters.
Great.
So
About
uh
what?
it was I I've been down on the border earlier this year working, and I saw two people drown in the river as they were trying to cross into the United States. Ended up tracking them down and finding out because it was tormenting me. I didn't have their names. I didn't know who they were, and I was just felt horrible about it. I these images of their last moments of their lives existed on the wire without much context at all. They were just more nameless migrants drowned in the river. And so I ended up tracking them down, finding out who they were, and actually helped identify. There was a young couple from Guatemala, helped identify the man's body, got in contact with the family. Body got repatriated several months later after many bureaucratic hoops and went out to Guatemala to document the return of his body and meet with both families of the couple and kind of show all the life and love that was left behind from these lost lives. So that's been probably like that's the journal in terms of journalistic pieces. There's been one other that I'm still in process of, but since Ukraine, that's been like the 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 biggest, most involved emotionally and literally, like physically, work that I've done. And it's just funny. It just came out this morning.
Well,
So kind of happenstance there. Um,
well, I can't thank you enough for doing this for us. I know it's never easy, and it continues. Um, and what do you do to keep yourself straight? What do you do to give yourself perspective?
ye- keep myself respected. Is that what you said?
No, no, perspective.
Perspective.
Respected is long gone, man.
Yeah, no, that's gone. It's out the window. No, man, I just giving myself grace and taking time and like I just like I've been on a road trip for the past 6 weeks and like I'm working a little bit here and there when it's popped up, but mostly like I've just like I haven't given a fuck the about trying to work and just living off my savings and just being present and like being physical and like I don't know, just being
Right.
present and being outdoors and
Right. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean, because listening to you and watching you, you can tell that you've got some stress. You feel, and it's of course it's justifiable what you're reporting on and documenting. So yeah, make sure you're doing all those things. Become selfish, more and
yeah,
more selfish, right? I mean that's really the job, and you
yeah,
know, sooner or later, you and I are going to pass each other on the L train.
yeah, man. I like that. Last stop, baby. Let's go.
Kanasi, here we go. Here we
Yeah,
come.
man.
Cheney, thank you very, very much. And know that you have a platform here. Anytime you have a story you want to tell us and share with us, just reach out. It doesn't have to be on Ukraine. It can be on anything. I'd love to
Cool.
have you come back.
Thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'll send you this when we get off here. I'll send you a link to this story that just dropped this morning, so you can take a look
Yeah,
at
that'd
that.
be great. That'd be great. Yeah, and let's stay in touch, Cheney.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you're doing. Thanks for having me here. Yeah. Thanks, man.
Okay, we'll be in touch. Thanks, Cheney.
All right, later.
All right, man.